Operation Market Garden was the brainchild of British Field Marshal Bernard Law Montgomery. Not usually a particular daring commander, Montgomery devised a plan to punch a hole in the German defenses and end the war in 1944, hopefully by Christmas. The plan involved mostly airborne units. The operation's success relied on the capture of key bridges in the Netherlands. If these bridges could be seized by the Allies, then the Netherlands would become the base of operations for an Allied invasion of Germany across the River Rhine, avoiding the Siegfried Line. The units involved in the operation were the British 1st Airborne Division, the U.S. 101st Airborne Division and 82nd Airborne Division, the British 30 Corps, and a brigade of Polish independent paratroopers. The 1st Airborne Division would be dropped west of Arnhem, the 82nd would be dropped to the south of Nijmegen, the 101st would be dropped to the north of Eindhoven, and the 30 Corps would make its advance to the north, reinforcing Allied units along the way. Market Garden is two sub-operations. Market is the airborne assault to seize key bridges, and Garden is the ground assault moving through seized bridges, crossing the Rhine, and creating an Allied salient. Market Garden is the largest airborne assault in the history of war. The operation began on 17 September 1944. 3 airborne divisions and 3,600 Allied aircraft embarked to the Netherlands in a daring attempt to win the war early. As glider and parachute infantry landed at their drop zones, things began to go awry. British airborne troops were dropped too far from themselves and their objectives. Many of the British radios were not functioning. British paratroopers of the 1st Airborne Division landed directly on top of German 9th and 10th SS Panzer Divisions. A small detachment of British paras were able to take Arnhem Bridge, but were then cut off from the Allies. Commanders of the 9th and 10th Panzer Divisions were Walter Model and Gerard von Rundstedt. Due to these challenges, British forces spent most of 17 September organizing themselves tied up, securing landing zones, instead of attempting to reach their objectives upon landing. The American 101st and 82nd Airborne Divisions had successful landings in comparison to the British. The 101st Airborne captured their objectives at Wegel and Eindhoven in just 4 hours. The 82nd Airborne seized its objectives at Grave, Malden, Heumen, Hattert, Wall, and Honding-Gutsche. On the second day of the operation, 18 September, the 502nd Parachute Infantry Regiment engaged in heavy fighting in Best and Eindhoven. The 506th Parachute Infantry Regiment liberated Eindhoven. 30 Corps rendezvoused with the 101st Airborne Division at Eindhoven. At Arnhem, Colonel John Frost's 1st Parachute Brigade receives its only reinforcements of the battle and beats back a German counterattack at Arnhem Bridge. German forces destroy bridge at Sun. On day 3, September 19, Allied ground forces rebuild Son Bridge and are only 16 kilometers from Arnhem. The 101st Airborne Division defends Son Bridge from the German counterattacks, but the Germans maintain control of the bridge at Nijmegen. Despite all Allied control over most of the town, the Germans still hold Nijmegen. The situation on the ground at Arnhem is disastrous. The 1st Airborne Division was forced to abandon the bridge and create a defensive perimeter around the town of Oosterbeek. Allied forces attempted to reinforce the elements in Oosterbeek, but the airdrops were misplaced, leaving virtually all of the drop supplies in German hands. Arrival of the 30 Corps in Arnhem is the 1st Airborne's only hope for survival. Inclement weather prohibited Polish paratroopers from dropping to reinforce forces at Arnhem. On day 4, 20 September, the road and rail bridge at Nijmegen is taken by the 82nd Airborne and ground forces of 30 Corps. The 82nd Airborne repels German attacks at Weiler, Beek, and Groesbeek with heavy losses. At Arnhem, the paras in Oosterbeek are without food, water, and ammunition. Only 3,000 men remain in Oosterbeek of the 1st Airborne. On day 5, 21 September, the Polish Independent Parachute Brigade lands in a hostile drop zone. A large number of the planes turn back due to inclement weather. Polish troops head for a ferry to take them across the Rhine, but they find it is missing. During the next 3 days, the Allies attempt to hold their positions and reach the cut-off men of the 1st Airborne at Arnhem. Inclement weather and stalled advances slowed the pace of the operation. The operation culminated on 25 September with the surrender of Arnhem and the evacuation of Allied forces from Kient. Allied forces casualties numbered 16,000 killed, wounded, or captured, 88 tanks destroyed, and 377 aircraft destroyed. German casualties numbered 7,000 to 13,000 killed or wounded. Many factors contributed to the failure of Operation Market Garden, but why was the largest airborne assault ever attempted a failure? The entire operation was planned in a 7-day period. Drops on the first day were delayed by 4 hours due to bad weather. Airborne drop zones were spread too thinly from each other, and the British 1st Airborne Division was dropped too far from its objective and suffered radio malfunctions, cutting off communications from other Allied forces. The Allied intelligence failed to identify the presence of the 9th and 10th SS Panzer Divisions in the drop zones of the 1st Airborne Division. Allied forces failed to stick to the operational timetable as soon as the operation began. The 1st Airborne Division advanced too slowly and too late towards its objective at Arnhem. By day 2, the entire operation was behind by 36 hours. 30 Corps was criticized for its inability to adhere to the operational timetable from the start of the operation. Poor weather prevented artillery support and airdrops for 3 days total, and prevented the Polish Independent Parachute Brigade from dropping until day 4 on 21 September. The airborne invasion of Normandy was a success, but why wasn't Market Garden? Allied intelligence underestimated the strength and tenacity of German forces in the Netherlands. The operation, which was technically made up of 2 sub-operations, had way too many moving parts. The operation's success relied on all aspects of the operation being a success. If just one of the objectives was lost, the entire operation would be a failure, which is what we saw happen. A strict timetable and all these moving parts caused the operation to fail nearly as soon as it was launched. Inclement weather, unforeseen Axis forces, and slow advances prevented Allied forces from using speed to secure their objectives. Operation Market Garden exemplifies the saying, "No plan survives first contact." If Allied commanders had been aware of the 9th and 10th SS Panzer Divisions in the area, drop zones could have been altered to have the 1st Airborne Division drop closer to Arnhem so that it could have been easily taken by full force according to the operational timetable. In this operation, we see the use of many airborne divisions, but to no success.